my name is Jason Norsworthy. I'm with the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture, and I hold the rank of Distinguished Professor and the AMS Farming Chair of Weed Science. And today I'm excited about some of the weed management research that we'll share with you as part of this virtual field day. I'm standing in a test where we're taking a look at the influence of size of palmer amaranth on the effectiveness of several herbicides. Particularly, we're looking at glufosinate. In this test, we had applications of Interline as the glufosinate product. We also have 2,4-D as Enlist 1, and we have dicamba as Ingenia. In addition to looking at the products alone, we're also taking a look at combinations of those. For instance, we're mixing Interline with Enlist 1, which would be a legal application or a labeled application within an Enlist crop. We're also taking a look at the utility of Ingenia in combination with Interline. I will point out at this point that that is not a labeled combination. I know there's some interest in trying to combine those because of the improved control that we often see. We're going to look at some of that today, but that is not a labeled application at this point for the combination of glufosinate plus any of the dicamba products that are currently being used in cotton or soybeans. Let's take a look at some of the results. I'm standing in a plot of palmer amaranth, or a plot that had palmer amaranth in it. It was 2 inches at the time of application. This would be 32 ounces of Interline that was applied to this plot. We had 100% control of the palmer amaranth here. I also will point out that this is approximately 2.5 to 3 weeks since the application. In addition to making the Interline application or glufosinate application, we came back and sprayed metolachlor over this so we could get a good evaluation of the post-emergence activity. The herbicide or the nozzle that we're using here also is an extended range nozzle. It's going to produce a fine to medium droplet, which is really ideal if we're trying to maximize the activity of a glufosinate product, whether it be Interline or whether it be Liberty or any of the other glufosinate products. I also want to point out that we've come over this entire test area here and we've applied Select Max. Select Max was basically used to remove the grasses. That way we get a good evaluation of the pigweed control. As I now move to my left, this is 1 quart of Enlist 1 that was sprayed here. A very effective product, 98 to 99% control of palmer amaranth. This was sprayed with an AIXR nozzle, which is going to produce a coarse droplet. I'm going to continue moving to my left, and here now I'm in the Ingenia plot. This would be a 1x rate of Ingenia sprayed with a TTI nozzle, and here, similar to what I saw with the Enlist 1, very effective. So at the end of this, 21 days out, really, whether it be glufosinate, 2,4-D, or dicamba, very effective, and it doesn't matter which product we choose if we're on small pigweed, 2 inch or less at the time of application. The plot that I'm standing in now was treated 7 days ago. It was treated with 32 ounces of Interline. This would have been 10 inch, maybe even a few 11 and 12 inch palmer amaranth within this field. You see some untreated plants to my left and a few here to my right. And what we have is we've got a lot of activity out of glufosinate or Interline at this point, because the fact that we're using an XR nozzle, but you're also going to have a lot of regrowth here. We had dense populations. The population itself is going to limit the coverage of this herbicide, and what we're likely going to see on a palmer amaranth this size is, again, 7 days, 10 days, 14 days from now, we're probably going to begin to see some regrowth of these plants that were not fully controlled with the herbicide. I'm standing in a non-treated strip here between 2 plots. On my right, we have Enlist 1, 32 ounces of Enlist 1. I have a labeled rate of Ingenia on my left. Don't see a lot of differences in between these plots in terms of activity on palmer amaranth. Large palmer amaranth, 10 inches, maybe slightly larger at the time of application. Yes, this is not a labeled application of those. We're 7 days out. We're beginning to see some activity on these, but overall, we don't see a lot of differences between the Enlist 1 and the Ingenia. The Enlist 1 was applied with an AIXR nozzle. The Ingenia was applied with a TTI nozzle. Let's take a look at combinations. Okay, again, I'm standing in between two plots. This would be 10-inch to 12-inch Palmer Amaranth. On my right-hand side, I've got Enlist 1 at 32 ounces in combination with 32 ounces of Interline. This is with an AIXR nozzle, a very, very effective treatment. This is large Palmer Amaranth. I would consider this to be a salvage situation. As a reminder, the AIXR is producing a coarse droplet. On the left-hand side, I have a TTI nozzle. This is with Ingenia plus Interline, a non-labeled application at this point today. But what we typically see here is that we get a little bit better control with the Enlist 1 plus Interline because we really think it's because of the AIXR nozzle. So what have we seen in our research as we begin to summarize this? What we've noticed is that nozzle really has less of an effect if I'm on 2-inch weeds, 2-inch, maybe even 3-inch weeds, whether I'm using herbicides again like glufosinate plus Enlist 1, or maybe even down the road a glufosinate plus a dicamba application. Nozzles are not going to have a strong influence. We also see that glufosinate products we've evaluated are comparable to Enlist 1, comparable to things like Ingenia and Extendamax if I'm on small pigweed, 2 inches or less. As we start to get on larger and larger pigweeds, none of the products seem to work well unless we have them in combination with each other. And again, just as a reminder here, what we see is that Enlist 1 plus Interline or glufosinate is much more effective than the products used alone, and the AIXR nozzle allows us to get better coverage than what we get with the dicamba plus glufosinate products using a TTI. So remember, just at the end of the day, try to utilize these products in combination. Let's try to make timely applications. With timely applications, we reduce our risk of herbicide resistance evolving. But in instances in which we are not able to make a timely application or we have slightly larger than labeled weeds, we probably need to be looking at combinations of herbicides. And I really like this AIXR nozzle in the Enlist 1 system in combination with glufosinate. Another point that I want to make in terms of the beauty of using combinations, again, things like mixing 2,4-D with glufosinate, potentially, eventually, maybe even a dicamba plus glufosinate, is that it really allows us to minimize the variability that we see in weed control as a result of different stresses. And we talked about today, one of the stresses just being sheer size of plants at the time of application and the stress that that's putting on the herbicide programs that we're evaluating. But in addition to that, at times we may have cloud cover as being a factor. We may have temperature as a factor. We may have soil moisture as being a factor that's contributing to some of the stresses that we've observed within a field. And what we've seen in our research is, as we begin to have more and more stresses within that field, it's all about trying to maximize coverage and making sure that we've got 2 effective herbicides out there targeting that Palmer Amaranth. As we close out my portion of the Weed Management Virtual Field Day today, I would just like to say thank you. Thank you to the Arkansas Soybean Research and Promotion Board for their support and the soybean checkoff dollars that come to fund research like what we've shared with you today.